Now, this goes without saying, but I'm going to mention it anyways. This top 5 is heavily geared towards those players who are either new at Fortnite or are really struggling getting wins. So we'll be going over just these really small things that are super easy to change in your game, and it will help you get to that end game where you can possibly, hopefully, get those wins. So coming in at the number 5 spot on today's list, I want to talk about skins in this game. This is something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time or include into a top 5, but I never thought it was really that big of a deal. But now, with the Season 3 Battle Pass having some really interesting skins, I think it's now appropriate because a lot of people have these skins in the game, and I'm specifically targeting the Dark Voyager skin, right? That's just kind of an example though, but with the Battle Pass, the Dark Voyager skin is one of those skins that is just absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the best skins in the game, and I was so hyped when I finally unlocked it. But one thing that I'm realizing, because a lot more people are now unlocking the Dark Voyager skin, I'm noticing so many people in game with this skin on, and the thing is, I find the Dark Voyager costume or skin to be so easy to spot in game. This is something that I really think that a lot of us don't even think about, right? You want to look cool in game, you kind of want to stand out in a way, but standing out isn't the best thing, especially, in those situations where you're in the top 10 or top 5, and you might not be in the greatest position, you might not have that height advantage, or you might not be in a base at all. Having a bright pink suit on isn't going to help you at all. But again, this isn't a big deal. That's why I have it here in the 5 spot. It's just one of those things that you maybe want to think about. If you are really struggling, this might give you just a little advantage. So coming in at the number 4 spot on today's list, I have a great tip for the start of the match. Through the video, we'll have a tip for the start, the middle of the game, and then we'll have a tip for the end game as well. So to cover kind of every situation while you're playing a game of Fortnite. Now, for the start of the match, one really important thing when you're landing is how you enter a house. This is really important, especially when you're going to an area that is really popular, and I have to exclude Tilted Towers from this because Tilted is kind of like a whole nother animal, whole nother beast. There really isn't anything else on the map that's similar to Tilted. Going to a place like Pleasant Park or Greasy Grove or even Retail Row, those are spots that are usually popular most of the time, but of course not as popular as Tilted Towers. But when you're going to a spot like that where you have a lot of people landing, it's so common for 2 people to share one house for looting, right? And what most people do is they love landing on the roof, breaking through the roof, going to the attic, and getting that chest as soon as possible, which can be good, but at the same time, it's not the best move. Only when you have somebody else landing with you. When you're by yourself, who cares, right? You can loot however you want, but when there's somebody else at that same house, the best thing to do is always go in through the ground floor. The reason why going through the ground floor is so important when you're sharing a house with somebody is the ground floor and also the second floor of that house will contain shotguns, right? Sometimes you'll find shotguns in the attic, but it's mainly just chests, nothing else. And if the guy up top gets a gold scar and you have a, a green semi or a green pump, there's a huge chance you're going to win that gunfight. So going through the ground floor is always the best option when you're landing in an area that has a lot of people landing there because you want that shotgun as soon as possible. So coming in at the number 3 spot on today's list, I have something that is so incredibly simple, yet it is one of the most important things and one of the things that will really help you out that I have on today's list. And that has to do with what you have as your default build, okay? And what I mean by this is when you start a game of Fortnite and you're looting, the staircase is something you spam a ton, right? Just to get to the, the attics or build up to a roof of the house or whatever you might be doing. We use that staircase build so damn much, and sometimes we forget that we kind of have that preset, right? When you hit the circle button or the B button on Xbox, the first thing that pops up is the staircase, right? And that can be good for, again, for looting or climbing a mountain, whatever, but when you are in a gunfight or someone shoots at you randomly, having those staircases pre-selected will end you. And again, this sounds so simple, it sounds so basic, but it is incredible how much this actually helps you survive those situations. You always want to just hit that build button and just make sure you have the wall pre-selected, because when you do get shot at, you can instantly build that wall and protect yourself, and the staircases most of the time won't really do that much for you. And the reason why I think this is so important is because I see so many other players doing this, right? And you can see people who are clearly not that great when you shoot them. They start spamming staircases everywhere, and again, it just really doesn't do anything for you. So making sure constantly throughout the game that that wall is pre-selected, I guarantee you guys, it will help you survive so many situations. So coming in at the number 2 spot on today's list, we have the quick swap. And the quick swap is something that definitely requires a lot more skill. It takes a lot more practice to get really good and efficient when it comes to swapping weapons really quickly, but it is something that if you don't do already, it's something you have to start doing right now. This is something that sounds really simple and really easy to pull off, but unfortunately it's something that is actually quite difficult. Like I said, it definitely takes the most skill and the most practice out of everything on today's list. But for those of you who don't know what the quick swap is, it's just simply taking a shot with a weapon and then instantly switching to another gun, and it's preferably of course a shotgun, taking a shot with a pump or a semi, and then switching to an AR, an SMG, or whatever to finish off the enemy, because the shotguns in this game, guys, we know how unreliable they are, so you can't rely on that first shot to kill the enemy. My favorite combo for this is definitely the pump shotgun and the semi shotgun, because that pump shotgun with that first shot can deal insane amounts of damage. You can possibly get that, you know, one shot, one kill with the pump. But if you don't, and you're instantly switching to the semi-shotgun, it's still a shotgun, and it can still deal a lot of damage. You have no problem finishing off your enemies with that combo. Also, a shotgun and a tactical SMG is also really good, because you can kind of spray with that tactical SMG, and if you do get a decent amount of damage with the shotgun with that first shot, you should have no problem finishing off your enemy. But guys, if you don't do this, start doing it. It will definitely be worth it. So coming in at the number 1 spot on today's list, say you have successfully made it to the end game here in Fortnite. You're in a top 10 situation, you've built your tower, you have the right weapons, things are looking good for you, and say you see somebody down below sneaking around and you're kind of keeping an eye on them, you don't want to shoot yet, and then all of a sudden a sniper bullet goes right through your head. Now, what went wrong here? This is something that is completely avoidable, and this happens to be way too much, and that is spending way too much time peeking. Now, you can call it whatever the hell you want. I personally call it peeking, but it's just when you have your head exposed when you are in your base or you're in your fort, and this is something that is really tough to do sometimes, because you sometimes get mesmerized when you see somebody and you're locked on that one person. You're watching their every move because you do want to end up shooting, and then all of a sudden you get sniped because you aren't thinking about what can happen around you, right? It's not just you and that other guy. There's other people playing Fortnite as well, and with this one little thing, it's so easy to fix. There's so many ways to look around or look below you without actually having to have your head exposed. You can sit right on the wall and look down. It's something you can easily do. You don't really want to have any part of you exposed unless you're going to go ahead and take some shots and go for the kill. Now, that being said, of course, there's going to be times where you get sniped because the other person just is an absolute god with a sniper and he hits you as soon as you go to shoot somebody. That's going to happen, of course, but having your head exposed for no reason, or maybe you're just looking around just for the hell of it, really is not a good idea.